For more, let's bring in Fox News legal editor Kerri Urbahn. Kerri, listening to the arguments today, these are two issues that the justices are tackling. And I was listening to you earlier, and you said you thought that they may wait to deal with the injunction issue for a better case on the overarching legal issue rather than the birthright citizenship. Where does this go, you think?
Yeah, it's unclear what they're going to do here, because I do think this is a bit of an unusual situation, and here's why. I think the majority of the Supreme Court believes that the universal injunction issue that we're seeing happening in this country right now is not good. It's problematic. It stops the government from functioning effectively. And whether a Republican or a Democrat is in the White House, it's going to be the same problem. Now, of course, we know that the amount of injunctions that have been issued against the Trump administration's executive actions are incredibly disproportionate to those before him. But President Obama actually complained about this too, believe it or not, when he was president. So I think there are people on that court, I would say, again, the majority of them, they want to deal with this. But to your point, Dagan, is this the case through which they want to deal with it? And the reason being, it's birthright citizenship. You know, there's precedent on the books. Now, I am not convinced that the Supreme Court doesn't want to address that. I think, in fact, they may want to take on birthright citizenship and take a look at it, given the fact that there is a case, an 1898 decision on the books that the government would argue, and I actually would agree with them, what wrongly interpreted the 14th Amendment. And that's the decision that basically created birthright citizenship as we know it. But the thing is, the Supreme Court hasn't gotten there yet, and they're not going to get there in this particular decision. Now, interestingly, they did indicate that they would like to address it sooner than later. So we could see perhaps a decision that addresses nationwide injunctions, the technical aspect of that, while saving birthright citizenship for a later date. But I would say that date would probably be sooner than later.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You heard the oral arguments today. Who is scoring points? Who didn't score points? Is there anything that was a surprise or compelling that came out of it?
You know, I was really particularly interested in what Justice Kagan was saying, because Justice Kagan has publicly complained about the problem of these unilateral judges, unilaterally issuing these decisions that stop the executive from functioning. And she was the one who said, basically, of all the cases that you could bring to us where we could deal with this, why would you bring this one? Because this is, there's some problems here. And I think she was indicating, I don't think you're going to win on this ultimately on birthright citizenship. Now, I don't know about that. I'm not convinced on that, because the Supreme Court, as you know, the conservative justices have not shied away from overturning past decisions. They wrote Dobbs, which overturned Roe v. Wade. They issued Loper, which overturned the Chevron doctrine, effectively beginning the end of the administrative state. So this is a very open-minded court when it comes to past decisions. They're willing to look at things and say, you know what? So what that we've been doing this for 100 years? Maybe this wasn't the right way to interpret the 14th Amendment if you go back and look at why it was originally created in the first place, and that was to deal with the evils of slavery, and a bad Supreme Court decision then that basically said, slaves were not citizens and their children weren't either. So that's why this amendment was created, to protect the babies of enslaved persons at that time. Fast forward to 2025, I don't know that anyone anticipated the birthright tourism industry that would explode after that 1898 decision. And so I thought Kagan's questions, put front and center what a lot of people were thinking. Justice Roberts expressed some frustration to Justice Sotomayor at certain points. She wasn't letting counsel speak. Justice Alito kept trying to bring it back to the issue that was directly before them, which is this problem of nationwide injunctions. But they all had interesting things to say, and it'll be interesting to see where they land on this.
Quickly, Kerri, the Wisconsin judge who allegedly helped an illegal alien evade ICE entered a plea of not guilty through her attorney on Thursday. How do you think this progresses? A case that has really stunned anybody who believes in, the rule of law.
Yeah, this is a wild one. A judge spiriting away an illegal migrant in front of everybody to avoid arrest by federal law enforcement. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. And the fact that she is invoking the Supreme Court decision that involved President Trump and presidential immunity and arguing that this case should be dismissed because she has immunity because, trying to hide this person and let them get away from ICE was somehow part of her official duties is mind-boggling. And how that is part of her official duties, I think is going to be a tough sell. I think she would say, well, I was trying to ensure order in my courtroom. But then you have to ask, by breaking the law?
Yeah,
So
I was a little
it'll
beyond
be interesting
that.
to see how that goes.
Yeah, I was a little beyond that. Look, I'm glad
Exactly.
that she's actually being charged. So,
yeah.
Kerri Urbahn, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.